It's Taste of Country Nights with Evan Paul on demand, season 2, episode 41 with Garth, Brooks, and Ronnie Dunn.
Well, you guys were gunning for the same radio airplay, the same venues at the same time. Was it ever competitive? Was the competition different back then than it is nowadays?
One of my favorite sayings is, there's a room in the business for everybody.
And then you go at each other's
That's what everybody says. You know, and behind the curtain, everyone is going, get me a faster horse. You know?
Amen. Yeah, we're sitting out the ACMs. We're both up for Entertainer of the Year.
Yeah.
You guys win it. I'm staring at you going up the steps. So sweet. Half of you is happy and half of you is not happy.
I tell you what, this was a crazy interview. We got to go to their recording studio. They have a new song out called Rodeo Man, Garth, Brooks, and Ronnie Dunn, and speak with the boys. We had a lot of fun. I think you're going to enjoy this interview with two country music icons. Give us a like, give us a rating, a subscription. It all helps us out here at Taste of Country Nights on Demand, powered by the Town Square Media Podcast Network.
Evan Paul here with Taste of Country. We're here with Garth Brooks, Ronnie Dunn. No introduction needed. How you gentlemen doing?
All right.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this because it's like I get to hear answers from him that I want to as a fan. So this is fun.
It kicks and I've been sitting through the interviews for years and giving the same answers.
So you get a little
Kicks already knew what you were going to say.
Right, exactly. And I know what he's going to say for the next 30 minutes once you ask him a question. So I still don't get to talk. Garth, he hasn't hit me yet.
You guys recall, can you take me back to like the first time you became aware of one another?
Oh, wow. That would be back in Tulsa. We were just talking about that, right?
International Finals Rodeo.
Yeah. How did you guys meet?
We didn't meet till way after that, but
it's probably an award show or something. I bet, you know.
Yeah, but it's the best thing, and the cool thing about how a lot of people meet, or wives meet each other, and then hey, you know, this kind of thing.
That's really what happens. We get chatty, outgoing wives that are taking care of business, right?
I don't want to get you guys in trouble.
No.
We stay in trouble.
What I love about this guy though is I'm a fan first, and I just enjoyed it. Every song they seem to come out with is like, holy cow, you know, I'd like to take a swing at that song, and I don't know if it was that way with you, but I'm thinking things like Rodeo, Beaches of Cheyenne. This guy can kill any country song, but I would think he would have torn those up.
Well, you guys were gunning for the same radio airplay, the same venues at the same time. Was it ever competitive? Was the competition different back then than it is nowadays?
One of my favorite sayings is, there's a room in the business for everybody.
And then you go at each other's
That's what everybody says. You know, and behind the curtain, everyone is going, get me a faster horse. You know?
Amen. Yeah, we're sitting out the ACMs. We're both up for Entertainer of the Year.
Yeah.
You guys win it. I'm staring at you going up the steps. So sweet. Half of you is happy and half of you is not happy, and it's so good. But I can think of guys, other artists, while we were there that you felt like you were competing with. For you guys, I always felt like I was pulling for you. You were just a good thing for country music, and the whole duo thing just kind of set you apart.
Did you guys ever go for the same song ever? You ever gone for the same song?
Yeah, about 6 months ago.
So I write this song.
Ronnie writes his song.
I send it to my buddy here to listen
right.
to. Next thing you know, he's cutting it.
Man, I texted him, just said, I don't want to get in on your song, and I don't want to do anything. I would take a look at that first verse and kind of see a little bit, and the door opened a little bit, and I was lucky enough to get to sing with Ronnie Dunn.
Now, you guys have always joked about this version of Brooks and Dunn. Yeah. It's finally coming to light. Like, how does it feel to finally be here?
I don't know. What do you think?
Again, man, it's just not a statement of humbleness, a statement of honesty. First of all, Hall of Famer, right? But the voice, it just, and trust me, we text about this a lot. He doesn't, I do. That I just don't think he understands how great of a singer he is. But I don't know how you cannot and approach things with the confidence that his voice comes out with. So getting to sing next to Ronnie Dunn, especially on a song Ronnie wrote, because if you ever go just hang out with Ronnie, the great thing is you go and sit down at a table, and behind him is every fucking number one song he wrote.
Okay.
You're looking at it going, holy cow. It's awesome. So the relationship has been fun.
Tell me about the first time you heard Rodeo Man. Like, how did it hit you?
I told this and just texted him back one word. It said smash. I just knew it was. It felt so good.
Smash butt.
Smash butt.
Change the verse.
It worked.
That's right. I'm not going to get in here if I don't change something.
Cody Johnson seems to be about the only other guy that's doing like rodeo stuff. Why is that so important to keep that alive in country music?
Holy cow. Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing my Cheyenne rodeo buckle. I mean, it's like I'm as proud of this. I've been worn it from day one. You have too. I've
got mine, yeah.
And yeah. So, I mean, that's part of our culture that we came up in. Oklahoma, it's Texas, all that area. You know, Kicks and I thought when we got together, it's like we're probably not going to go any further than Texas, Oklahoma, maybe a little bit of Louisiana, and that'd be it, and that'd be fine. We'll last 3 years if we're lucky. And get out. But it's all just that culture. You know, you get to be, you know, and it is. You get down to the way you dress. You know, it's like if you don't wear the right stuff, the cowboys they'll read you.
Yeah, it's and we, you know, I can speak for me. I think I can speak for you too. We owe our careers with men and women in the hats. I always have. From everything from much too young. Here comes rodeo, right? Beaches of Cheyenne. You just keep going down the list. Good Ride Cowboy, all that stuff. So it's we're just very, very lucky. And you talk about, well, you know, the whole rodeo family part. Mm-hmm. It's the greatest thing. When we talk about friends in low places, said, who do you want in there? We said we want to weigh heavily on military families. And want to weigh heavy on the rodeo families because they're just good people that just want to treat people like they want to be treated.
It's a good, solid culture. Amen. It really is, based on some really good, cool, like you just said. I don't need to say it again.
When's the last time you guys get to go? You get to go as like a fan anymore? Like just to go to a rodeo? Just watch?
We play them.
Like, but not playing them. Like.
No. I went and photographed Cheyenne. A few years back, you know, we got buddies, and I got into that, you know, after I quit the business and all that stuff. But it got into that and started chasing them around. Went up to into Montana and got somebody into some of those real organic rodeos where it's funny. I mean, it's amazing. I walked back at one point, and this kid, there's a place called Miles City, Montana, and it rained for 2 days. So the rain, I mean, like it was nothing but that much of that mud. And those kids they're riding rodeo stock, you know, for the buyers to bid on. So they'll get off one horse, go get on another one, go get on another one. They're belly flopping in the mud. I mean, the photos are unbelievable, man. So, and it lasts all day. It wears them out. So you walk around the back behind everything, and they're all like sitting on tailgates just going, oh. So one kid standing up behind all the rest of them, and he has one of those big liters of whiskey, and he's just doing this. And I'm going, I didn't get the shot, but it was like, dude, we are spent. But it's, you know, fun stuff. What was the question?
That's good enough.
My job was to sing at them.
Yeah.
I've been singing the rodeo since I was, you know, starting out. Started with the Lazy E down there, the Time Defense Championship, all that stuff, the international finals. So I was never good enough athlete to do it. If I would, I'd be 200 pounds less than I am right now. But those guys are amazing athletes. So it's fun. I love the way they live their lives. I love the talent they have that I don't have. So it's fun to get to sing about.
Yeah, it's appreciative. You know, and I had cowboy, you know, written, tattooed down my arm. I'm scared to death to go back around all the real cowboys. Somebody's going to pull me in there. I'm going to come out with my nose sideways. You know?
Tell me about the time. Did you almost have to change your name because of? Can we talk about that a little bit? Because of Kix Brooks.
When we got signed to Capitol Records, another artist was Kix Brooks on their solo deal. And so they said, if we're going to sign you, but we're going to need you to change your name because we got Kix. And one of the many things that I owe this guy right now is I got to keep my name. Because Dubois found Ronnie and wanted to put Ronnie and Kix together. And so Kix left Capitol, went over to Arista? Yeah. And so they said, hey, you're clear if you still want to use your name. I said, oh, cool. Yeah, Garth Brooks. But he goes, no, we want you to change your first name. Like, what the hell's a Garth?
Henry.
Was there a time where you had some choices narrowed down? Like you're like, all right, I'm going to have to change it.
Well, we're from Oklahoma. So we'd go back for Thanksgiving or whatever. And you did the Conway Twitty thing where you're looking at every town in Arkansas. Trying to figure it out. No, I'm just... I'm not a very imaginative guy.
Yeah.
So it's I like the fact that I got to keep my name.
Congrats on the bar about to open up.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to ask you, did anyone ever approach you guys to do a Brooks and Dunn bar over the years?
What a great idea.
Yeah. We're just afraid to be in the bar business. You know, we don't have as much money as Garth. He can, you know, yeah. He can sneak around, take a risk that big. We can't.
You know what? Brooks and Dunn bar, we need it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we need it. Just
All
do a
right.
licensing deal where it doesn't cost you any money.
Yeah,
Somebody else is fronting it all, but I'm telling you, we need a Brooks and Dunn.
Well, loan me some.
That place would be.
Okay, let's go. Sounds like a good business.
I mean, isn't your
front the
place
money.
a few floors? Can you give up a floor to...
Oh, hell no.
Got to build a tall enough in town to take care of this business, right?
6th story would be Brooks and Dunn, I guess, yeah.
Garth's busy.
Ronnie, when you and Kix dropped Brand New Man, Garth was already 2 years into his career. Did you have any of the same concerns about the name stuff?
Yeah, of the band?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we sat down and tried to do the same thing. Just took notebooks and passed them. Coyote Brothers, Cactus Brothers, whatever. You know, knew it had to have a Western slant to it. So I went away, went to Oklahoma and visited some relatives and came back. And Kix had sent the idea to his brother-in-law, who was on an ad agency up in Maine. And that logo came back, Brooks and Dunn. And the way it stacked up artistically, there's just we're like, yeah, okay, I'm good. I didn't care. I needed a job. We were good.
That's fantastic. And the logo of the steer head just too good, man. It just worked out really well.
Yeah.
And of course we had Holly Dunn at the time too.
Yeah.
So we had all the last names kind of going all at once.
That's a good point.
And finally, people want to know, what's on your guys' tour rider nowadays? Like, when you roll into town, what do you need?
I was thinking about this. Do you have anything on your tour rider? Because I've heard all these stories about people that do.
Yeah, all the green M&M stuff.
Yeah, have you got anything like that?
Nothing crazy.
I've heard recently underwear.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm disappointing people by not having something cool on my rider.
No, we've never been trying to do that. It may be like a little humble bottle of Blanton's or something. We all like to take in the band. Like just a shot going on. When we all gather at the box, you know, most people pray and do things that are righteous, and we shoot whiskey.
Which right before you go on is righteous.
Yes, it is. It's like, woo, all right.
There's nothing that you require backstage.
I can't think of it, man. I'm trying, but we're all got raised the same way.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole crew is either from Kansas or Oklahoma, pretty much. We've all been together since day one, I think. In 2024, we'll have 33 people over the 30-year mark.
Wow.
With us. So we're all the same guys. So, you come to this business, it's like we had a song called Back When the Old Stuff Was New. There's a line in it that says, no rules, young fools coming from the old school, begging for a place to play.
I love that.
And we're still that way, man. When somebody says, hey, we want you to play, it's like, yeah. Slide us up.
Is it on the new record or some stuff you're working on? What did you say?
No, that was back when you guys were busy so much.
Okay.
Did you see a single episode of Friends or
No.
Who was the guy, Seinfeld?
No.
I never saw a single episode of any of
Same
that
here.
stuff.
Never did.
Because we were
Wow,
lucky enough to be gone.
you can catch up on all
All the
that.
time, man. We had our own little reality, and that definitely wasn't going to get it on TV.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time. We really love the
Yeah, but
song.
thank you, man.
Appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's bring in Billy Dukes from not behind the camera on this one because, as I mentioned earlier, we went to their actual recording studio. But let's bring in Billy Dukes from behind the scenes to talk about this one.
You had yourself a day this day. Do you want to talk about your full itinerary and what you did on this particular day?
Yes. So on this particular day, I came into work really early to get my actual work done, like the radio show and all that stuff. And then I had scheduled in one day, I went to Garth Brooks and Ronnie Dunn's recording studio there and recorded this interview, got my makeup done and all kinds of stuff I wasn't expecting. And then I went and had to kill an hour, so I went and got some coffee, and then I drove over to Warner Brothers Records, walked into the wrong Warner Brothers. I went to Warner Chapel Music, which is across the street, And then I figured out I was at the wrong place, and then went to the right Warner Records and was received by someone right away. And they brought me upstairs right to Kenny Chesney, where I interviewed Kenny Chesney. And then I went home and played on the floor with Barbie dolls with my little 4-year-old. It was the craziest day.
We could share more about the Kenny another time, but tell me about the experience with Garth, because as you said, this is a high dollar affair. Like, they had multiple cameras, they gave you makeup. I bet you there was a little bit of a spread, wasn't there? A little food and drinks kind of set out for you just in case.
Yeah, there was some catering.
Yeah.
There was like some food, some light snacks. So I walked in and I sat down on like this. In this room where this couch and stuff, there was like pictures of Elvis up. Like the room looked like it was, like in the 70s. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the record label guy, and it's just like me and him. And then in walks Ronnie Dunn, and he's just by himself, and nobody says anything to him. He goes over and starts eating some strawberries. And he was just standing there for like 10 minutes. And then they were like, all right, Ronnie, we're ready for you. And then he was like, okay. And then they were like, all right, Evan, we're ready for you. And I'm like, all right. And then they brought me back and they were like, all right, lift your arms up, take your hat off. I'm like, what is happening? And this guy started wiring me all up in my pants and stuff, all getting all microphone.
Wait, whoa. He put the microphone in your pants?
I mean, he was like hooking it to my belt buckle. And, he was in there, man. And then like, they started putting some makeup on me. And I didn't know any of this was happening. I might have dressed up a little bit. I knew I was on video, but and then I just sat down, and it was weird because like they weren't ready. They were still setting up stuff, and I am just sitting there with Ronnie Dunn and Garth Brooks, and there was like a minute or two of just chatter. But they were like including me in the conversation. I was acting like I wasn't like paying attention, but they were just talking to me.
They were trying to warm you up a little.
Yeah,
they recognize, especially Garth recognizes that he's a pretty big deal, but he doesn't want whoever he's talking to be intimidated by him. So he was probably doing a thing where he kind of tries to make you feel more comfortable, recognizing that you could be a little bit nervous, especially, he knows he's never met you before.
Yeah. And, it's really nice, and then they started talking about the conversation before we were rolling tape was about how they only I don't know. It was like how they like to hire women to work for them because women are so much smarter than us men. And, women get the job done better. And, they found that out early in the career that you got to have a bunch of ladies around running the career.
So I have a couple of questions, but first I want to point out that when the hair and makeup is really good, if you show up, you can get yourself a free haircut too. I've had that happen where you show up and they're like, well, let us clean you up a little bit around the ears.
Whoa, that would have been cool. I would have taken that.
Garth and Ronnie are releasing their song Rodeo Man on Big Machine, and Big Machine for years, like whenever they had a big album coming out, would bring media in to do kind of a similar experience, these sort of junkets where they would rent a room for a day and bring in like the biggest media outlets in town, and we benefited from that a lot. Like I think there's one from way back in the day with us and Taylor Swift, certainly Thomas Rhett, Tim McGraw, Brett Young, this used to sort of be their standard right up until about the pandemic. Then they kind of quit doing it, but maybe they'll start bringing it back.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. I mean, if they do bring it back, bring back the haircuts part too. That sounds really cool. But it was just sweet.
So before we get into the actual interview, I do have one question. I think the interview was around 12, 13 minutes. The one downside about this arrangement is that they get the footage, like it's their footage. And, if there's something they don't like, they might kind of nip and tuck. And I've had them do that in kind of some small ways before. Was there anything that got edited out of your interview?
I don't think so. I was expecting something. Not that I remember after listening to it and watching it. I don't think they did.
I used to always sort of like turn my cell phone on like the phone recorder and just sort of slip it into my chest pocket just in case I didn't get something back, because they would never tell you we did this. And so at least then I had it and I could kind of refer to it. I don't think I ever used it though. Like that might have kind of gotten me uninvited.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I don't get invited anymore, is because I did that. I don't know.
I did that one time when I was getting fired at a radio job.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I knew I was getting fired, and I have done it twice, actually. one time when I was quitting, but I had to ask. It was a whole process. I had to ask for an amount of money that I knew they weren't going to give me because I wanted them to not renew my contract so I could move to a different radio station. So I had to get that on tape. So I put that in my pocket. And then another time I knew I was getting laid off, and I actually called my wife and put it in my pocket so she could hear the whole thing.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, sidebar, sorry.
What did you want to know from Kix and Ronnie? Like, what was your number one question once you got past sort of the theatrical element of this and sort of the nerves of getting to meet both Ronnie Dunn and Ronnie Dunn and Garth Brooks for the first time?
Man, honestly, I wanted to know. I was really intrigued by the whole name change thing, and back in the day, what it was like, when they would compete. I thought that was really interesting because I wasn't sure if they would be competing per se because they were a duo versus a solo act. But, I didn't think about like Entertainer of the Year. There's duos in there. It just doesn't seem like there has been. Gosh, has there been a duo Entertainer of the Year nominated in a long time? Can't recall.
Only one that might have been, and I really can't recall if they were nominated, was Florida Georgia Line. They certainly should have been in that category, but I don't know if they ever got one of those noms.
Yeah, I mean, that caught me by surprise. I wanted to know about that. So that was interesting that they said they didn't compete, but they did. But and I didn't know that, Garth, I thought it was interesting that he said he owed like his name and his career a little bit to Ronnie Dunn for, protecting that name a little bit, and the Brooks. And I just thought it was cool that they had never been Brooks and Dunn, even though it's Brooks and Dunn. Like the average country fan knows that, but someone that doesn't know about country music might actually think that's Brooks and Dunn.
I was hoping Garth had like a fake name that he almost went with, like a Max Powers type situation. But it sounds like he said like they didn't want him to be Garth.
I couldn't tell if he was joking or not. You think he was joking?
No, I think he was serious. I think they had an issue with his name being Garth, so he almost had to kick around, or he was asked to consider changing his first name, but maybe he put the bar down. He wouldn't do that. It sounds like he wouldn't even consider that.
Yeah, and then I thought that was interesting that Ronnie Dunn and them were like, yeah, we would have gone by anything. We just wanted a job, So it's
right.
When you're first starting out in the game, it's hard to imagine that Brooks and Dunn almost weren't Brooks and Dunn, and they just wanted a gig. They would have changed their name.
So when I heard that, you got to remember when Kix and Ronnie, and everybody kind of forgets this, when they first kind of got going in the early 90s, they were dang near 40. Like, they weren't young men in this game. They had been really kind of going after it for a long time. So they probably looked at this as like their last shot of real stardom. So at that point, they're like, whatever you want to call us. We're done. Our egos have been checked at the door. You can call us Tom and Jerry if you want. I'll be Rocky. He can be Bullwinkle. Let's just do this thing. Boot, scoot, and boogie. All right.
And that makes sense, though, that they were at the, a little bit older, because there's something to be said about that. Because when you're young and in your 20s, stuff like that matters. And you're like, no, I'm not. And then once you get to the age where, maybe they were ran over a couple times, they were like, yeah, man, we just want this job. Just you can call us whatever you want. It's interesting that I bet that happens more than we think.
Well, it's always sort of, the negotiation. And there's probably in every negotiation, a number of things that are peculiar, strange, silly, or just really kind of, like for instance, I'll use Cody Johnson as an example. This isn't silly, but when he signs with Warner Music Nashville, well, I think they're just like his distribution partner. Like he didn't sign with them per se. He wanted to make sure he kept the rights to his music and it was his own label. And he's kind of a unique artist in that. But I'm sure that was a part of a long negotiation with him because that was something that was really important to him. Other people might have things that are a little bit more, I don't know, strange maybe to an outsider, I guess.
Yeah, you got to have cojones, though, to start asking for stuff like that. If you're brand new, I mean, you got to know that you're good, and that a lot of people will be, bidding for you, and then you can get into that bidding war. But, I mean, we've talked to a few country artists that say that they had a bidding war going for them as well, like Jelly Roll and stuff. So I think once you get to that bidding war stage, you can call your own shots. Because speaking of Jelly Roll, I'm sure somebody was like, that name is not going to work in country, and he was like, yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you got to ask him that next time he comes in. Did anybody ask him to go by Jason DeFord or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, dude, that's a great question because I put money on that one.
Do you think Garth was BSing about his tour rider? Like if we actually got a look at his tour rider, do you think that there's something on there? It's like, wait a second. Yeah,
I feel like because every country artist I feel like has like this underlying, I don't want to seem high maintenance when they answer that question. I think that, they all have to have, certainly Garth Brooks has to have a tour rider and he's got to have some things on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I find it hard to believe that Ronnie Dunn backstage just wants one bottle of Blanton's. Like, they're leaving out all kinds of things, I think. I don't know, but I thought I would almost guarantee that there's like it's got to be like a full sheet of stuff, right?
Yeah, especially with that much band and crew in both of their cases. And with Garth, it might not even be anything that's like Jimmy Allen's underwear. It might just be that we see something that's like, oh, wait, hold on. He needs a jet to, his might be like really high dollar sort of asks. That are above and beyond what like someone else could feel comfortable demanding. Like everybody needs transportation to the show. Garth needs to be flown in a helicopter, for example. That's not the case necessarily, but that's kind of what I'm wondering if his answer really would be if he was being honest. But he's never going to say that.
Yeah, and whoever back in like the 90s, God bless him, whoever answered that question with green M&Ms, because that answer still goes around. Even Ronnie Dunn was like, we don't do anything like us for only green M&Ms. Whoever answered that question for the first time is an icon. We got to get to the bottom of that. That's a podcast we need to do.
Oh, I know the answer to that.
Oh, what is it?
Well, so I can tell you who it was and why they did it. It was Van Halen.
Whoa.
And they did it because they knew it was such a strange, peculiar request. They wanted to, but their show was really kind of complicated. And if not sort of produced and put together properly, it could have been really dangerous. So they put the Green M&Ms thing on the tour rider to make sure that they were actually reading the full list of demands and were paying attention. That gave them some assurance that the set and like the pyrotechnics and everything else they were using on stage was attended to properly. If they got this detail about the M&Ms right, they probably did a pretty good job with the rest of the elements as well.
Wow. That's next level right there. Encyclopedia Dukes right there. You really came through with that. That's cool.
It was a clever reason for doing that as well. I thought that was interesting. Was there a question that you didn't get to ask him that you wish you would have?
I don't think so. I think that I got to almost everything. I think if they hadn't wrapped me up, I might have started just making stuff up, I just think that, just as a fan, have you ever walked into a bar and sang your own song karaoke, like stuff like that. But I think I got everything I needed. And then I was like, all right, this is great. I'm out of here.
My favorite part was right at the end when they both admitted they've never watched Friends or Seinfeld once, like not a single episode.
Oh my God! The only thing I was wondering that whole time was, I hope they're still filming because this is great. I hope they're still filming, and because I thought the interview was like kind of over. But that's so crazy because if you think about it, back when they were, there was no like you couldn't DVR. You would have had to like VHS tape it in the bus and like whatever. But I did softly recommend to the gentleman that you can catch up with those nowadays shows with technology, but it didn't seem like they were too interested.
I wouldn't catch it. Have you watched episodes of Seinfeld kind of 20 years later now, 25 years later?
I got to tell you, I never watched Seinfeld when it was on. I just wasn't a fan.
It doesn't stack up. Like, it was great at the time, but now it doesn't land. Like, to me, it doesn't hit as hard as it did then. And I was never a big Friends guy, so maybe it's the same with that. Some shows do. Old Simpsons episodes, I think, do. Old King of the Hills certainly do. The Office still does for me. But Seinfeld, I've watched old episodes, and I'm like, especially like the early seasons, my God, it's boring. It's a tough show to watch.
Well, it's like Frasier, right? I didn't watch that either.
Well, that was a more traditional kind of sitcom, though.
Okay. See, now I can watch Martin and Saved by the Bell all day. Those are my jams.
All day long.
Those poor guys, man, they missed out being on the road that long.
I want to ask about one more thing, and I should have addressed this kind of at the beginning when we were talking about the mood. If you see the video, and we're going to have the video of this interview up on Taste of Country, and you'll see Evan on YouTube, and you're wearing a shirt. I think you have a Costa logo on your shirt. And you told me they had an issue with it, so they taped it. I thought they just taped the whole thing, and that was going to... What they like put little pieces of tape kind of scattered. You could still totally see the logo. Like, it didn't do anything. What was the thinking there? What was their concern? And like, why was that a satisfying way to handle it? It's weird.
Man, I have no idea. At first they were going to tape the whole thing. And then they were like, let's just do little chunks just to break it up. And then they were looking for another hoodie for me, and no one had one. And I kept saying, I'll turn it inside out. It'll just look like a black hoodie. And they were like, no, we'll just tape it. We can't have any logos. And I was just like, okay, I'm not sure. I have no idea. It was one of those things where I just was like, man, I'm sorry. Nobody told me. I wish I would have known,
Was this conversation before or after Garth Brooks walked out with a shirt with a giant logo on it?
Well, Well, the lady was like, "Well, that's his logo," and
sure.
So because someone said that, someone was like, "Well, Garth has a logo," and they were like, "It's his logo," and I was like, I didn't say anything. I was just standing there the whole time, like, just nervous. I was like, "Man, whatever y'all got to do to my shirt, go ahead."
Yeah, the solution they came up with was, everything else was high dollar, but they did not have a way to handle this. They had not thought of that as a problem.
Yeah, subpar. And then I forgot that it was like taped up. I think I interviewed Kenny Chesney that way. And I think I like walked around to the grocery store that way. I probably went through the wash that way.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.